On. Hello, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Crooked Illness. As you can see from the title of today's episode, A Way to Overcome Crippling Anxiety, we are going to be talking about something that has been tried, tested, and successful at eliminating my guest's anxiety. My guest who will be telling us about this today is Jesse Harless. Jesse received his master's degree in mental health counseling from Rivier University in New Hampshire. He is an advocate, trainer, author, and the founder of Entrepreneurs in Recovery. Entrepreneurs in Recovery consists of an in-person and online events and workshops that empower individuals and groups to unlock their highest potential. His events and workshops have been run throughout the U.S. with individuals, communities, workplaces, organizations, addiction treatment centers, and programs. So without further ado, welcome Jesse to the podcast.
Hey, Paris. Thanks for having me.
Yes, of course. I'm excited to have you on today to tell us a little bit about what it is that you discovered and what you did to overcome your anxiety. So if you can you get into that?
Sure. Anxiety, specifically like social anxiety, social phobia, has been with me since high school. And, so it's something that really I had a hard time in high school. I actually didn't even go to the cafeteria my last 2 years of high school because of the social anxiety was so intense. So I ate alone. So it was something that was significant. It definitely led to future problems with addiction too. But some of the things I did right away later on in life after I found recovery from drugs and alcohol was like meditation was a big one. Meditation, even just 5 minutes every day in the morning, was a way for me to kind of not just like, not a woo-woo type meditation. I mean, even just resting, just being with myself, my, kind of connecting to myself, my inner knowing. And then eventually, having people on what I call my recovery team, AKA my support team, that I could talk to and give them the realness and tell them like, hey, this is what's going on without them judging me. So being very transparent with people. And then eventually it became, cold showers became really the way to kind of knock it out of the park. So, I was even on medication for anxiety for 7 years. So like when I found these practices and then just really stacked the deck for the win, stack the deck with self-care habits and a recovery team and then really cold showers in 2015, it just became a way to knock out the anxiety almost completely. If I have anxiety today, it's like a normal energy thing. When I have anxiety today, I just go, oh, my energy's off right now.
Yeah, because I know the biggest thing that you mentioned to me was throughout that entire thing, the fact that the cold shower thing was the thing that really helped you the most out of everything. Because I know you said you've had medications, therapy, all the things that you've gone through and tried to help work on that part. It wasn't as successful. So I was amazed by that because before we had that conversation where I talked to you and you told me that you did that and you did this experiment where you did cold showers for 30 days. And I thought that was really cool that you discovered that and it worked for you and it actually helped eliminate that. So can you kind of talk a little bit about like, where did that idea come from? Where did you get that idea to try that out and how, talk a little bit about that 30 days, like when you were in that 30-day challenge, like what were you thinking? What was going on?
Yeah. So what happened was a friend of mine came over who's, he's an intuitive friend. He came over one day in December. I live in New Hampshire, so it's cold here in New Hampshire. It's probably a 35-degree day and, 40-degree day. And this person came over and said, hey, you need to start taking cold showers. And I was like, why would I take cold showers? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I love hot showers. So, he said, you should look into it. There's a lot of benefits. And at the time, my roommate said, hey, I'm just going to do it right now. And it was like 5:00 at night. And he just ran into a straight cold shower. And so I had decided to do a cold shower as well, straight cold, 5 minutes, all the way cold. And it was brutal it was just a brutal experience. But when I came out, what I noticed was, I had heightened energy and all that, but I went to a meeting 2 hours later. When I was there, one thing that wasn't present was my anxiety. Like I usually would face some type of feeling of anxiety. It wasn't there. And I said, how is this? And so I was like, when I get home that night, I said, I'm doing a 30-day challenge. Like, I'm going to do a 30-day challenge of cold showers to see if this is real. So right into Christmas, I kept doing them. New Year's, I kept doing them. What I noticed was my
Wow.
energy started to climb. My confidence started to climb. My anxiety continued to decrease. I started to take big risks out of my comfort zone at my workplace, which led to huge success. And so I was like, how, so the cold showers were a catalyst, for me to do the hard thing right away at the start of my day so that when I faced hard things coming later in the day, they were easy.
Wow. And I know after you did that, you had people ask you, like, what did you do? How did you overcome your anxiety? And then I know you mentioned to me that because of that, so many people asking you what's going on, you ended up writing a book about it. So can you talk a little bit about that? You writing the book, what the book's about, talk a little bit about that process.
Yeah, so the book was a result of 2 years later, I was at an event, and this was like a mastermind event. And this person said to me, "Hey, who are you? Tell me about yourself." And I was still working at a job at the time, 9 to 5 job. And I was like, "Oh, I work here." And I was like, "Oh, and I also take cold showers every day." And she was like, "Why do you do that?" And so I was like, "Well, it really helped with my anxiety. It helped with so many things, like to get out of my comfort zone, to better skin, like all these different things." And she was like, "Wow, I'm really good. I'm so impressed." She's like, "Can you write a book about this? Because I've never heard, because you can Google cold showers, you get a million different things." But she's like, "I've never heard of this anxiety angle and stuff. And can you write a book?" And so I said, "You know what? I'm going to do this." And I gave myself a 3-month goal. I said, "I'm going to get this book done." And that's what happened. I wrote the book. It didn't get published for a lot longer later, but the bottom line is I wrote a book for that person. And then I really thought about when I was writing the book, because, when you write a book, you want to think about who's going to be that main audience. And when I was
Mhm.
writing it, I actually thought about one of my best friends, George, who's, he was someone in recovery, but he was struggling at sometimes with his anxiety in his life. And I just thought about him as I wrote this book. And, so that's how the book came about: Smash Your Comfort Zone with Cold Showers.
Wow, because see, okay, I know, and I also know that with that as well, you also developed what you do now, Entrepreneurs in Recovery. So can you talk about how did that come about? Like, where did you get the idea for it? How did you start it? Just talk a little bit about that whole thing.
Yeah. So Entrepreneurs Recovery was the result of, I worked for a company for 15 years. It was such an amazing experience, and I don't regret any of it. Um, but what happened was I started to surround myself with entrepreneurs. I read a book in 2015 called The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod.
Mm,
And this book planted a huge seed. And then I met Hal a year later, and I had a conversation with him. And it planted these huge seeds that there was another way to live. There was another way to create. And that's as an entrepreneur. And I just became really fascinated by studying these friends that I had that were entrepreneurs, these new friends. And I ended up joining a mastermind that was way out of my comfort zone. I was still at the 9 to 5 job,
mm,
and it was an entrepreneur. It was a mastermind for entrepreneurs. I didn't care. I just joined it. And I just said to myself, this was March of 2017. I said, "I'm going to become an entrepreneur, be my own boss by August." And I set the
mm.
date. I wrote it down. I looked at it every day. And that's what happened. I left my job
Wow.
August 25th, and I started Entrepreneurs Recovery. So Entrepreneurs Recovery came really out of a meditation. The name came out of a meditation, but Entrepreneurs Recovery, what it means is I'm from the world of addiction and mental health. I've struggled
Mm,
with addiction and mental health my whole life. So has all my friends. So I ended up saying, how can I serve? I'm now 13 years into long-term recovery, 12 years into long-term recovery. how can I how can I serve at the highest level for myself using my gifts of passion and intuition, authenticity? And I said, it's going to be to help people to live their best life, to go from survival to thriving. And I was just going to do it the way I found to be I'm
mm.
most passionate about, which is freedom, which is living a self-directed life, which is what the principles of entrepreneurship is. So that's what I did. I set out to do that. And then what happened is I ended up taking a training 2 months after leaving my job, and that just led me in another direction of facilitation.
Wow. And I see, okay, with the entrepreneurs in recovery, I know you talked to me about the process of starting it, doing it. And I know that you said Can you talk about the transition? So the transition from, the job that you were at and then ended up and leaving that job and then committing fully to entrepreneurs in recovery. What was that like? Or what did it feel like? And what was that whole process like?
Well, there was a lot of naysayers. When you go to live big and
Mm-hmm.
you want to live your dreams, people are going to pull you back in the bucket, because they
Mm.
don't want you to go out and do that. They love you, but they don't want you to, they don't know how to talk to you. If you did such a big jump, they wouldn't know how to talk to you. So I had a lot of people, even close to me, that were like, why would you do that? You have built this career. You just landed your dream job. Why would you
Mm-hmm.
leave all of it? And I said, I basically would only share the real intimate stuff with really close people that would help to build my dream up. And
Mm.
so I really didn't share with a lot of people, and I just shared with people closest to me, and they helped foster that belief. I said, here's my vision. I've mind mapped it or heart mapped it. Here it is. This is what I'm going to do. And when I told these people that, they were like, oh, you're definitely going to do that. And you're definitely going to be successful. So I made sure that I told the people, like a coach, like someone on my
Mm.
recovery team, this dream, not just like random people, not even like your parents are going to support your dream sometimes. So you have to really go on the inside, make sure it's right for you. And then it's scary, of course. I left the job, I sold my house. I went all in. I bought a house in recovery. I sold it to live out this purpose. And yeah, on the other side, the first year was very difficult, and there was no guarantees. And today I'm on year 3 of being on my own, and I don't regret a second of it. And I've had a lot of ups and downs for sure, but
Mm.
yeah.
So it's kind of the biggest point, or like the biggest takeaway, is just who you're surrounding yourself with and who you're sharing that information with. Because I know you mentioned the naysayer aspect, and like you can't always tell everybody, like what you want to do, what your plans are, what your goals are, because you're going to have people who are not going to fully be on board with that, right? They're not going to, fully see it the way that you see it and think that it's going to be possible. So, it's important, like you mentioned, to tell people things that, like your coach, like people who are around you who can see that vision and see the passion you have for bringing that to life. And they're backing you on that. They're telling you like, you can make it happen. You can do it. This is going to work. And I feel like, out of everybody that I talk to, that's like one of the common things I hear is, when you're talking about something that seems like, it's hard. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of, time, energy, money, whatever. Not everybody can take that and really, see it as a possibility. So I think that's a huge thing that you mentioned right there, is making sure, like, focusing on the people in your life who are gonna back you and be there and support you and help you through the hard times that you mentioned. Obviously, like the first year that you said, you sold your house, you left your job, you went all in, you did it, and there were ups, there were downs, and through those moments, you have a team, right, of people who are there and helping and supportive. And if you could just talk a little bit more about, I'd like to hear more about the, kind of like some advice that you'd have for someone who, they want to overcome their anxiety, but they're struggling with conquering that and they're struggling with what to do. What would you tell that person, or like what would the conversation look like with that person?
Yeah, I mean, anxiety can be very crippling, and it can be very, it can be very also, it can make you feel full of shame. So a lot of times mental health issues, or even just anxiety and different things and depression, can make you feel less than, and you don't know why you
Mm.
have it. So you don't want to share, you don't want to share, you want to put on the mask. So, it's really peeling away the layers of the onion for someone to be like, if they're coming out and telling me they have anxiety, that's great. But a lot of people don't call it anxiety. They
Mm.
call it all these different reasons. So to get to the core of like, hey, this is just an anxiety. Maybe it started in childhood. Maybe it's related to a trauma. There's something there. So getting to the root cause. And if they were to just to say to me, hey, I have really bad social anxiety, I would say, okay, great. Well, I can relate. And here's what I would recommend is start journaling your journey. Start journaling every day. Take 5 minutes every day and journal. So you can start with journaling at night. And I want you just to do an experiment on yourself and start to journal the times when you have anxiety and what you did. And there's going to be times where you're going to let yourself down. Like, I didn't do anything. I just was in a total panic. So I would say start to journal that journey. And then I would actually start to recommend to change small habits. Like you don't have to come out and take a 5-minute cold shower,
Mm.
but what if you just started to, you know, get into the shower and then turn it cold at the end and just get yourself psyched up a little bit, get some energy. And eventually you can work your way into a longer shower, a cold shower. And if someone's like, no way, or I don't have cold showers where I live, then it's like, all right, well, how about you practice some rest? Not meditation, rest. So in other words, take 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day to just lay down or to just lay in the grass without your shoes on. Just rest. Just find time to rest. Everyone has 5 minutes. So just find time to rest. And if you want to start to meditate as well, then go ahead and do that as well. But, start to do these mini habits, and these will start to conquer that anxiety slowly but surely. And if someone's like, man, I am a mess, I'd be like, all right, well, practice EFT, emotional freedom technique, try the tapping, because that a lot of times people feel anxiety. It's not just anxiety in the mind, it's they feel it physically. They feel it in their face, they feel it in their body. So when you do tapping, you're able to connect with yourself, your body, because we're not the body. We ended up, a lot of us identify ourselves as the body, and we're not the body. So this is kind of a way to, the tapping is just another physical way. But there, so I would just I'm an intuitive person. So if I'm with you and you're telling me something, I'm intuiting what I will say to someone, based on what I'm picking up and sensing.
Yeah, no, I feel like I relate to that 100% because I'm the same way myself. And I feel like what you just said I think with starting small is kind of like what the biggest thing is that I took away from that is starting small, like with the journaling, doing that. And then kind of, not trying to dive right in and like tackle like, so many things because it feels like a lot, it feels like a lot. So I like how you mentioned to start with that journal those moments when you're feeling anxiety, when you're feeling a certain way, and noticing, the times of the days when things are happening. And then, even like you mentioned too, is, when you get into the shower, you don't have to do the full 5-minute cold shower. You could start slow. You could do it, cold shower at the end for like, try it at the end, try it at the beginning. Just kind of try to figure out, really what's going on with you. And I like how you said at the beginning that not everybody says it's anxiety. They say, different things, or they give it different labels, or, when they're talking about anxiety, they don't really want to, say anxiety or bring the word into the conversation because it seems like a shameful thing, like you mentioned. And so many people do carry that. So I think it's very important to be aware of that and kind of, do what you're doing is where you're educating people that that's totally fine. That's normal. It's fine to feel that, to have those feelings, to express that. And, I'm happy that you mentioned that, because I feel like, when people are stuck or they don't know what to do and they feel like they want to ask for help, they want to ask for advice. And even that, like even doing that in itself can be overwhelming sometimes, to even like make that first step to ask someone, hey, like I'm struggling with this, or I'm dealing with this. Like, what do you think I should do? And, and I think that's great that you laid it out the way you did, because I feel like it's so true. Is so many people, I feel like it's weird. Like, I feel like more people are getting comfortable with aspects of mental health now, a little bit more, but it's still taboo. Like there still is a level of shame that people carry with that. So,
Yeah, for sure.
I
Yeah, for
mean,
sure.
yeah, it
Yeah.
really is.
Especially right now too, with like COVID-19 happening and
Mm,
like facing the worst mental health crisis of our time coming up, and having all the things that are happening in the world of addiction. It's just, it's a really tough time for people, and people who are sensitives, the empaths, the highly sensitive people. It's a
mm,
really hard time because you're picking up on the collective fear that's happening, and so much fear mongering and so much happening that it's almost obvious now that people have anxiety. And what
mm,
I say to those people is, it's okay. Like, it's okay. Even if you want to call it energy, it's like, oh, it's my energy's off. Okay, great.
mm,
Whatever label helps. But, just recognize that it's okay. We all are feeling this collective fear, especially if you're like very sensitive, highly sensitive person. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's okay to feel that, but like make sure you have the self-care strategies in place, or you're going to be in a really bad spot, because you might pick up eating, you might pick up other habits like overeating, or making bad decisions with technology addiction and all these things that are really can just steamroll and cause more issues down the road. So like, so just to say that it's normal right now to have a lot of anxiety, and literally it's okay if that's what's happening.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And I really love that you mentioned that that's okay to put that out there, just that it's okay, to have those feelings, to be dealing with that. Because everybody at some point, some point in their life, some point in time is going to have moments where they feel like that. And and I think it's great to put it out there that way, to let people know that, if you are experiencing that and you are feeling that, and just being aware of that, right? So, because like you mentioned, if you are in that kind of a space, you can pick up these other habits, right? Like you mentioned, overeating, or issues with technology, issues with like spending, or whatever it may be, because you're having those feelings and you do these different things to try to help with it, try to cope, try to deal with it, try to make it better in some way. So I mean, can you talk a little bit about that? I like how you brought that up. The point of, being careful with the energy that's out there, and not trying to attract that kind of stuff. So you are doing those different things. So can you talk a little bit about that and what that looks like?
Yeah, like for me, I'm what you would call an empath, whether you believe that
Mhm.
exists or not. That's what I am. So when I walk into a room, I feel the energy of the room. When I walk into any place, I'm someone who needs to spend time alone.
Mm.
So I need the time alone to recharge my batteries. But I also need to make sure before I leave the house and go into the day, that I'm doing a grounding meditation, because I need to
Mm.
be grounded into myself. Because out there in the world is crazy. You got media and news and all these people with the masks and all this stuff happening.
Yeah.
The bottom that's craziness. So I need to be grounded in myself. So I like to do a grounding meditation. So I'll get grounded into myself and do a grounded meditation before I leave. Without exception, I never leave the house without doing the grounded meditation. But I
Mm.
do it in the morning so I can kind of start my day. But if it's mid-noon, if it's a noontime, I still will do it. So like finding strategies to protect your energy is a lot of energy vampires. So you have to be really careful to guard your energy. And some of the best ways to do that is just do a grounding meditation. You have like a shielding energy bubble, and people say, "Oh, it's craziness." Well, guess what? It's crazy not to do it, because look at
Mm.
the way the world is crazy. So,
Mm.
doing things that, if you call me crazy doing that, thank you, thanks, because it's helping me and I'm thriving when I do it. So that's great. So if you have these practices, grounding practices, and meditation, some people use aromatherapy, some people use crystals, some people use prayer, and they put prayer into the meditation of the grounding, like
Mm.
whatever works for you. And I like to be like a scientist of my life, right? Earth is a school. So I look and I go, what can I try? Because why? I have suffered tremendous anxiety and addiction, all these things. Like, I don't ever want to go back to that. So
Mm.
I make sure that that doesn't happen by doing daily habits. It's not easy for people to do something every day. But when you realize that, like brushing your teeth, washing your face, doing these things every day, you would do that every day. Well, this becomes one of those habits. Oh, I would drink water and eat today. I'm also going to do my grounding meditation. It becomes part of the
Mm.
normal self-care routine, like brushing your teeth.
Yeah, so really making that a part of your daily routine. Can you talk a little bit about what does that grounding meditation look like? Because I know for me, like I'm not too familiar with meditation, and that's something I actually want to learn about and to try myself. I was actually talking to someone about that today. So can you talk to me about, like, what does it look like? What is the process? I know you mentioned you do it in the morning, sometimes in the afternoon. So what is that like?
So I've learned two meditations that really help. There's a heart math meditation. It's called the heart lock-in. And the
Mm.
heart lock-in is a way to get grounded. You get grounded in yourself. You get grounded into the resilience that you have with the heart. So the heart lock-in is a nice way to ground yourself. You can learn more about that through the Heart Math organization, the heart lock-in. And then there's another meditation I learned from my spiritual mentor, Jedi Lane. and she taught me a way to do grounding. It's literally called centering. So I center
Mm.
into the earth. So I center in to Mother Earth. And when I first was introduced to it a couple of years ago, it was kind of, my brain wanted to reject it. It was like, no, no, no.
Mm.
So the ego doesn't like that. But
Mm.
my heart and my, it was like, yeah, this is great. And so so grounding in, to yourself. And I mean, I'm happy to give you an example, but I don't know if
Yeah.
you have time. So it's heart lock-in is a really helpful one. That's heart math. You can actually learn all about that. No
Yeah.
problem with a Google search. And then another one is just centering, a practice that I learned from my spiritual mentor.
Well, that's awesome. I'm definitely going to look into that because as soon as you mentioned that, that's something that I've been talking about, just today with somebody is learning about that and trying that and practicing that and doing that because I've heard nothing but good things from people who meditate and who practice and who do it each day. I've heard nothing but positive things. But, I really wanted just to say thank you to you for coming on and, having this conversation because it's such an important conversation to be, to share things that you shared about anxiety and about doing the cold shower thing and how that helped you overcome your anxiety and really, I know that you mentioned, having the energy and good skin and all that stuff, but really helping you feel good and feel confident. And when you mentioned to me that, you walked into that meeting, the first time you did it, you said your friend got into the shower and then you thought it was crazy, but you did it. You did it. And then you went into that meeting and you felt good. You didn't notice the anxiety. And I think that's something that is great to be aware of and to know about. And that's why I think it's awesome you wrote that book you did. And, you guys need to check it out. It is called Smash Your Comfort Zone with Cold Showers by Jesse Harless. So check it out. He's doing great things with entrepreneurs in recovery, with your book, with the cold showers. All of that stuff is awesome. And, thank you so much for coming on, sharing your tips, sharing your advice, and really sharing your story of how you got into doing all the work that you're doing. So, yeah.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, of course. I hope to connect with you again soon, maybe do another episode in the future. But I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, you too.
All right. Bye.
Bye.